Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Box Office Talk. This is the show where I break down what happened at the box office, see if my predictions for the top 5 are correct, then make predictions for next week's top 5. So let's get right on into it. Last week I predicted that number 1 would be Madam Web, number 2 would be Bob Marley One Love, number 3 would be Argyle, number 4 would be Lisa Frankenstein, and number 5 would be The Beekeeper. And I only got 1 out of 5 of my predictions right for this weekend. Nobody else got their predictions right either. There was a little bit of a switch up that some people tried to predict, but then there was another thing that kind of snuck back in. It was a weird weekend. The thing that usually would get number 1 didn't get number 1, which is kind of interesting. So let's go over what happened in the overall top 10. Since I am also recording this the day after the weekend ended, I was a little busy yesterday, so I couldn't get it out then. Apologies. And also, since these movies opened up on Wednesday, these newer releases also, we got some bigger numbers than just the 3-day one, but we will be talking about their opening weekend for the 3 days. So let's just dive right on into it. Number 1 was Bob Marley One Love, actually sneaking up there, making $28 million for the 3-day. That adds now to a domestic total of $52 million. So for this director, it has already outgrossed his other films domestically, Monsters and Men by $52 million, Joe Bell by $51 million, and King Richard by $37 million. It's also his highest opening weekend, $28 million over Monsters and Men and Joe Bell, and $23 million over King Richard. 2 of those were more limited release, and King Richard was a COVID HBO Max release as well, so it seems almost unfair to kind of compare them, but still, this has got to be good for the director. It's not just it's his highest opening weekend by default, or it's his highest grossing movie by default. It's like, these are actually a pretty high numbers, all things considered, and the fact that it beat Madam Web this weekend, that's something to brag about, to get more jobs, which, hopefully that works out for him. Worldwide, it is sitting at $80 million, so worldwide, it's $80 million over Monsters and Men, $79 million over Joe Bell, and $43 million over King Richard. The budget is only $70 million, so the fact that it's made $10 million over that already, it has not doubled it yet, but it's on its way to. That's still pretty good. Once again, adding up to this director having a pretty solid career. It's looking like going forward, which, hats off to you. Congratulations on your success here. But I'm sorry, we just have to dive right onto it. Number 2 was Madam Web. This is the one that you're probably all here to hear me talk about. Jesus Christ, it didn't get number 1. Usually these Marvel movies, no matter what continuity it's in, will get number 1. But it didn't. It made $15 million this weekend, which adds to an overall domestic total of $26 million. Now, for the SPUM universe, the Sony Pictures Spider-Man villain movie universe, the opening weekend was $65 million below Venom, $75 million below Let There Be Carnage, and $24 million below Morbius. So this is the lowest opening weekend for the SPUM universe so far. It still needs $47 million until it outgrosses the entire run of Morbius. And Morbius, don't forget, that was not a hit. So the fact that it's doing numbers worse than Morbius right now is pretty bad. Worldwide, it's only sitting at $51 million. That's $111 million away from Morbius, and the budget is $80 million. I think I mentioned this in the video, that it feels weird calling a movie that cost $80 million cheap, but that's how it felt like. And then that negative word of mouth, it's hard to avoid, I think an article literally came out earlier today where it was kind of quoted, an insider was quoted as saying, you could see the projected opening weekend start to decline because people were refunding their opening night tickets or just their tickets in general. That's the power of bad word of mouth, that's for sure. Because that's the thing, is a cringe marketing campaign or meme marketing, whatever, word of mouth of oh, you just gotta see it, it's so bad. That can only get you so far. You know what I mean? For a big tentpole movie like this, the word of mouth being, it's unwatchable, cringe, garbage, why the fuck did they make this? That is not gonna help you out, God, they're not... And that's the thing also, is that $80 million, this is cheaper than the most recent outputs of the MCU by a wide margin. And the fact that it's looking like it's not even going to be able to double this budget, at all, they're not going to be able to count this as a success, that's insane. Holy shit. What happened? I mean, we know what happened. The review embargo dropped, and then people started saying, yeah, it's pretty bad. I mean, it kind of ranged from, this is the worst thing I've ever seen, to, it's not that, but I didn't really care for it. So, no way, there was no way out of this negative feeling whenever you saw Madam Web listed anywhere. No wonder people refunded their tickets. And honestly, good, not to put my own personal bias. If you've seen my review, you know that I didn't really care for this movie. And if this flops, then hopefully this teaches Sony a lesson. It's mostly, I don't think this is a career killer, because the actors all have other works coming up. They'll be fine. S.J. Clarkson has had a long career in directing television. I don't think this movie is going to stop her from that. You know what I mean? And the writers on it, it's been widely kind of talked about on Twitter lately, is that two of the screenwriters who also co-wrote Morbius, they also wrote some other screenplays, like for, Dracula Untold, Gods of Egypt, after those movies didn't do very well, they're still, getting movies made from their scripts. So I'm sure it doesn't seem like anyone's job is necessarily on the line. Maybe it's just the higher up execs that, caused this nightmare in the first place. And honestly, good. Sorry, let's move on to number 3, which is Argyle, making $4.8 million, adding to a domestic total of $37 million for Matthew Vaughn. It is a couple $100,000 over King's Man. It needs $1 million now until it outgrosses Stardust, which it's looking like it's going to do for Matthew Vaughn. Worldwide, it is sitting at $77 million, so it's $20 million away from outgrossing Kick-Ass's worldwide run now. Either way, this is still not a hit, though. No official word on, when we can expect that Argyle prequel spin-off novel movie, when the release date for that is. But I don't know, maybe they'll can it. Maybe this will be Apple's first tax write-off. You know how streaming services like to fucking write shit off now. Well, it's not just streaming services, it's also Warner Brothers, because they're gonna fucking get rid of Coyote versus Acme because they're a bunch of greedy fucks. Sorry, that was a little rude. Not untrue, just a little rude. Let's move on, because I don't really have much more to add to this. It's a flop. What else can I say? Number 4 is Migration. Not a flop. Still holding on pretty fucking solidly, from having a kind of, pretty low opening weekend in December. It was like, oh, who cares about this movie? It's probably not going to hold over well. Here we are in February, and it's still in the top 5, holding over pretty well, making $3.8 million, adding to a domestic total of $116 million. It is $43 million away from outgrossing Secret Life of Pets 2 for Illumination. Worldwide, it is sitting at $255 million, so it is $95 million behind the Lorax's overall worldwide run for Illumination. But now that it is sitting at $255 million. I don't even know if we talked about it last weekend or anything like that. If I didn't, I'll make sure to get it now. It has tripled its $72 million budget now that it has gotten past $216 million. It's on its way now. If it gets to $288 million, it'll quadruple that budget. So we're already a little halfway there, That's pretty impressive for, like I said, this movie that came out and it was looking like for Illumination this was going to be another big bomb for them. They haven't had one since Hop, pretty much. A lot of their movies, even the COVID-released Sing 2 did pretty good, all things considered. But, here we go. They're doing okay, actually. It's not going to be one of their higher grossers, but, they kept that budget low. They released it at a pretty solid time. Word of mouth is pretty good on this thing, too. There you go. Got a solid hit. At number 5, we have The Chosen, but it's not the same Chosen that we've been covering for the last 2 weekends. This is actually The Chosen Season 4, Episodes 4 through 6. Completely different Fathom event. It's not 1 through 3 anymore. They've moved on. I didn't know they were going to be doing this kind of rollout. I guess after they did so well last time, or the first time they brought these to theaters, it was like, well, yeah, bring the rest of it out. You know what I mean? Which, hey, if it works for them, why not? Made $3.6 million, which adds to a domestic total of $4.7 million. That's it. I have nothing else to say. Let's move on to number 6, which is Wonka, making $3.5 million, adding to a domestic total of $210 million. It has officially outgrossed the Tim Burton Wonka film by $4 million, making it the highest grossing film to feature the character of Willy Wonka. Hallelujah. You know what I mean? That's really good. And it helps that this movie is actually good. It's not just, oh, I just want the Johnny Depp one to be embarrassed or whatever the fuck. It's like, no, it's actually a good movie, and I'm glad for its success. Worldwide, it is sitting at $605 million. If it gets to 625 anytime soon, that's like 5 times its original budget of $125 million. So, Jesus, this movie, little did you know it was actually going to be the holiday hit of the year, It's about to hit, I know it's already on, like, premium video on demand right now. It's about to hit, like, Blu-ray at some point, I think, next week. But still, I mean, the fact that it came out on, like, video on demand, like, last week or, like, 2 weeks ago, something like that, but it still has a solid hold in theaters. People have, talked about it so highly that other people have wanted to go see it in theaters. That's really great. Number 7 is The Beekeeper, making $3.2 million, adding to a domestic total of $60 million. It is $25 million away from outgrossing Fury for David Ayer. Worldwide, it is sitting at $120 million, so it's $90 million away from outgrossing Fury. No traction on David Ayer's filmography at this point. I think we already kind of talked about how, like, Fury and Suicide Squad, unless you open really big, you're not going to really get to those ones, because that's kind of like his highest grossers. But, The Beekeeper being his third highest grossing one is not bad at all. It's actually, an okay, fun movie. And also, I bring good news from Wikipedia. They have finally added in the budget of this movie. They estimate that it cost $40 million to make. That's their initial production budget. Since now, worldwide, they're sitting at 120. They have tripled this budget. So, yeah, a success. There you go. I was really hoping this better not cost secretly $80 million or something like that. And it didn't, and it's like, okay, yeah, the movie, it looks like what it cost, and they've made back enough money where you could say it's successful. And maybe if they do make more, they can improve and they can grow their audience like what John Wick did, Maybe they could have something really special here. I hope that's the lesson that's taken away from this, that mid-budget original kind of project with some true entertainment value can get butts into the seats, and if you market it well enough, you can have a mild hit. And not everything needs to cost $100 million or anything like that. Not everything needs to be IP based or straight to streaming just because they're scared. You can put stuff in the theaters. Please try to do that more often with some of these movies that you just... Well, that's the thing also. If it's already kind of decided, it's going to streaming, sometimes the movies then just look like fake movies, not real movies. Sorry, let's move on to number 8, which is Anyone But You. Another example of, if you invest in an original thing with a mid-budget, it can actually work wonders for you if you market it well enough and it has solid word of mouth. Anyone But You is coming in at number 8, making $2.4 million, adding to a domestic total of $85 million. For director Will Gluck, it is a couple $100,000 over Annie, now sitting $30 million behind Peter Rabbit. So domestically and worldwide now, it is now Will Gluck's second highest grossing film, which is pretty great. Worldwide, it is sitting at $189 million, which is $157 away from Peter Rabbit. Domestically and worldwide, it's looking like it's not going to get there, similar to the David Ayer Beekeeper situation. It's like, once you get kind of close to the high grosser and, you're dipping into the bottom 5 of the top 10 now, it's like, yeah, it's looking like you probably won't outgross those ones, but hey, you got pretty damn close, and for the budget you had, you've made your money back, and it's a success, and people are talking about it still. That's good, you know what I mean? Anyone But You, People's Champ, and The Beekeeper, and Wonka. That's not the same budget, though. That's a little higher, but still, it's moderately budgeted compared to fucking what they dumped in the Marvels or Aquaman. Number 9 is Lisa Frankenstein. I wish this one was doing better, though, making $2.09 million, adding to a domestic total of $8.08 million. The budget, still listed at $13 million. There's no worldwide total to bump it up, so it's still looking like it's not doing very well. For Diablo Cody's filmography, it is still $1 million away from Tully. It'll probably outgross that film just out of the top 10 at this point. Probably won't be here next weekend, which is a bummer, but maybe it'll have a second life as a cult following, very similar to what happened with Jennifer's Body, which is another Diablo Cody movie. And then finally closing out the video, number 10, Land of Bad, a movie that I only just found out existed yesterday. Making $1.8 million. There's no other domestic total here, but this is on a budget of apparently $18.7 million USD. So, shit. Sorry, Russell Crowe and one of the Hemsworths, whichever one you are that's in this movie. It's not Chris. Know that for sure. Anyways, now it's time for the fun part, the predictions for next week's top 5. Number 1, I think actually will be Bob Marley, One Love again. I just think it might have enough to squeak into the number 1 spot again, just because of the additional solid word of mouth you could get from defeating Madam Web in your opening weekend. You know what I mean? I think there might be a good wave there to ride. And then number 2, I think it'll be very close, but I think number 2 will be Demon Slayer to the Hashira Training. You got to go with these anime films now, I've been burned by this too many times where I'll see it coming out and I'm like, oh, it's probably for a niche audience. No, got to predict it at least number 2 or number 1. Number 3, I think will be Ordinary Angels, just because I think it's that kind of movie that will be targeted towards a certain demographic that will go in droves. It may not be the highest grossing film, but I think it'll have a solid enough audience. Number 4, I think will be Madam Web, Holding On for Dear Life. And then number 5, I think will be Drive Away Dolls. I think I'm being maybe a little too optimistic with that one. I could be being too optimistic about all these, but I think for this one specifically, I'm not sure how many people know about it or how many people are actually interested in seeing it. So I'm hoping that there's a solid word of mouth here when like more reviews come out. Maybe it'll bump up in there, but I don't think it will make more than these other ones. Unless Madam Web drops drastically, then Drive Away Dolls has a chance. Anyways, what are your predictions for next week's top 5? Leave them in the comments below. And as always, thank you guys for watching. Make sure to subscribe. I'm Jackson Fulcher. See you guys next time.